Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be going over the Wylder class in Elden Ring Nightreign. This is an incredible class, very easy to pick up and learn, does a good amount of damage. We're going to end up with a solid build for this. We're going to go over relics, everything you need to know. First things first, we're going to talk about his abilities. His passive ability allows you to cheat death a single time. His character skill is the grapple. We'll go over that with a follow-up. It's amazing. And his ultimate does a lot of posture damage. We're going to be covering that as well, of course. Can't wait to jump into this one. Wylder is really fun. Let's jump right in now. So out of all the classes, I have no doubt that Wylder is the easiest to learn and pick up. If you're having a hard time with Elden Ring Nightreign, this may be one of the characters to try out because it's very easy to learn. If you're starting out too, Wylder is an excellent choice for you. It's basically a knight class. You start out with a really good greatsword and very easy to understand abilities. A lot of the other abilities are very complex. Wylders are relatively simple and they are useful. We're going to jump in now to how to play as Wylder, going over the basics. I have the follow-up that we're going to talk about relics later on the grapple. Is phenomenal. If you get the one that allows you to follow up and get basically Flaming Strike, you're going to want to grab that. It's amazing. As you're building Wylder, by the way, throughout your playthrough, we're going to talk about passives later on for weapons, but in terms of what you pick up, there's a lot of randomization. But after bosses, I recommend going for defense and stamina regen primarily. Those are going to be really good for Wylder specifically. So the concept for Wylder is going to be a lot of charged attacks and a lot of jump attacks. You're going to do as many jump attacks and charge attacks as you possibly can because you want to build up posture damage. That's the big thing with Wylder. You're going to be using bigger weapons, starting with the greatsword. Sometimes you'll pick even bigger weapons up than that, and the main focus should be posture damage, getting in that break, so that gives your whole team a break essentially, and then you could stack up damage on the boss once they're down. This is really crucial to playing Wylder and how you should play with Wylder. We're going to talk about how he's an expert at most things. His stats, very good across the board. He's pretty, I've heard a lot of people say he's mid across the board because he basically doesn't really specialize in anything specifically and has just, you know, good stats instead of great or amazing stats across the board. But it also allows players that are having difficulty or that are starting out to pick up Wylder and run basically any build because you're able to use whatever weapons you want to use. He has a C in pretty much everything other than like strength, which is a B, and high stamina and vigor. If he specializes in anything, it's going to be vigor, stamina, and strength, and everything across the board, the rest of it, you're going to want to run bigger weapons due to his stats. But if you run something like strength and arcane, or even if you want to run an arcane type build, the only thing I really wouldn't do is go out of your way to use too much in terms of intelligence or faith, but you could probably get away with that too because I believe he has a C in both. He's one of those characters that could do pretty much anything across the board. Very, very easy to learn that way. And of course here we're going to grab the critical hit, a damage boost, because you're going to be doing a lot of posture damage as Wylder. You can see here we have the follow-up with the grapple. That's huge. Once you use that grapple follow-up, go for the charged attacks, get in as much damage as you can. Your sword will be imbued with fire. You'll do additional damage as well, which is great. He really is good at taking the pressure off your teammates, can take a fairly good amount of damage. The ability to cheat death is awesome because every once in a while he'll just sidestep a move that would essentially kill you, and then you can continue jumping back in and fighting or heal up or whatever, take the pressure off your teammates, and get in some solid damage. So we talked about posture breaking a bit, but that really is what I want to emphasize with Wylder. If you're thinking about running a different type of build, you could probably run, as I mentioned, a couple of different things, several different things really, that you could run and probably do really well with. But the biggest thing for him is to be able to break bosses. When you have the ability to break bosses with Wylder and building around it that way, he becomes a more broken character because you're going to get a lot of poise damage. Specifically, his ultimate, when charged, we're going to go over that here shortly, does a ton of posture damage as well. You combine that in well with your regular hits and whatnot, charge attacks, jump attacks, etc., and you're going to be breaking bosses in no time. He's also really great against bosses like these, the Crystallians. Don't mind my skill level. Sometimes at these games, I'm not the best. I'm pretty average when it comes to these games. I think one of the advantages that you're going to learn with my guides, and feel free to subscribe if any of them helped you so far. It's absolutely awesome that you guys have been joining. I've been getting some new people lately. It's been great. I just want to mention too, like feedback-wise, if you have any feedback on these guides, I plan on doing at least 2 guides for each character. A fairly basic one that goes over everything you need to know, and then of course has relic ideas later in the video. That's what I've been doing so far, that you can kind of mix and match. And then an advanced guide later on that will go more for damage and is a little bit more specific as you go and grind and get more relics and whatnot. Now, back to Wylder, we're talking about poise damage. Get in as many charge damage as you can. There's the ult there. You can charge it by holding it down. Does a ton of posture damage. You're able to break the Crystallian in one shot, of course. You could break a lot of bosses with his ultimate and then continue to do your regular hits, charge attacks, etc. Whatever you can fit in for poise damage. He's, of course, amazing with great swords. Now we're going to talk about tanking as Wylder, which you can do too. It's very much possible to tank as Wylder. You just have to be a little more careful than if you were playing Raider or the Guardian class. So if no one in your group is going as Raider or Guardian, you're probably going to be the guy to tank. In this case, I was. By the way, shout out to my teammates. This is from a run that has the final boss at the end. I will give a spoiler warning before the final boss comes up, and plenty of time if you do not want to see the final boss. But I will go over some tips for the final boss for those that are interested, because I did play against him as Wylder and get a win. I believe it was my third try running the final boss, so not too bad there. Now, back to this. If you're not running, if your teammates aren't running the other classes that I mentioned, the tankier classes, Wylder's probably going to be the one that can tank hits, because he can take a fairly good amount of hits too. Just not as many as Raider or Guardian can with reduced damage, so you do have to watch that. You can build around him as you go to make him tankier. Of course, you can build your defense against physical damage, elemental damage, etc. So keep that in mind. You can tank a bit. You just have to be a little bit more careful, that's all. You can take hits here and there. You're not going to go down in one hit to pretty much most of the bosses, even in the end game, but you may go down in 2 or 3, which is a little bit different in contrast to Raider or Guardian. This is with a completely random group, by the way. They ended up being really good. They got some interesting names, but they were really good. With randoms so far, I've actually been doing quite well. It's been about 50-50 as far as randoms go. Eventually, I'm going to make a review. I only have one boss left, the Dark Drift Knight. That's the only one I have left, and he's been really difficult for me. Once I get him down, I'll probably do a final review for Nightreign. There is some specific things that I do want to talk about for Nightreign, because, yeah, there's some issues with running it with randoms. It's not typically that they're bad necessarily. There's a couple things, though, that I do want to mention when I make that review. That will be coming in the next week or so. All right, back to this. We're going to go for charge attacks. Consistently use our grapple as much as we can with the follow-up. Get in that extra fire damage, of course. The fire damage really effective for the tree avatar. He is weak against fire, of course. And get in as much jump attacks too, get in poise breaks when you can, and be the guy that critically breaks everything, because that's your job at the end of the day, is to get in as much posture damage as you can. I love running Wylder this way, and I believe it's the best way to run him, to build around poise damage, breaking bosses, and after all, you're going to be giving your teammates a break. All right, we're going to jump into relics here. All right, the best relics for Wylder. We have follow-up with the flame attack, amazing. End boss relics, the affinities one is really fun. Lingering area of fire after using ultimate. Ultimate cooldown reductions, stamina regen or increase in stamina, increase greatsword attack power or boost for having multiple greatswords. Starting armament inflicts frost, poison, bleed, or rot. That's pretty much good for anybody. Increase runes for self or allies. We have item effects, allies, HP restored when using boluses, etc. Starting armament deals fire damage. I really like fire damage. It's great in Nightreign, so that's really cool if you can start out with fire damage. Starting armament deals holy damage. That's amazing too, because fire and holy damage, two great damage types in Nightreign. Defeating enemies fills the art gauge faster. Strength increased, improved defense or resistances. You may be the character that's tanking as Wylder. I mentioned that in the video. If you end up being the character that's tanking because nobody else picks, a character that can take damage, you're going to want to run as much defense or resistances as possible. Let's talk about passives now. Some great passives for Wylder are improved charge attacks, improved jump attacks, damage up with wielding 2 weapons, improved chain attack finishers, damage increase full HP or low HP, improved damage negation at full or low HP as well. All right, so I'm just going to talk here for a couple seconds, because in the next clip, the final boss is going to be on here. So if you don't want to see the final boss, you can dip out now. If you want to see the final boss, some tips and going over Wylder a little bit more, we'll jump into that. But at this point, you have everything you need to know. We are going to jump in now. So for this specific run, and this was pretty much the entire run in this video, just shortened up a bit, I decided to run. I was using Boiled Crab, Exalted Flesh, and then, of course, his regular sword +2. I got a purple. I was able to get a drop from one of what they call invaders in Elden Ring Nightreign, so that ended up working out really well. What we're going to do here is we're going to use the grapple attack. course, the follow-up attack, the fire attack too. You can use Holy Grease because the final boss is weak to holy damage as well. Holy damage is really good in Nightreign. And of course, we're going to continue what we talked about earlier. We're going to do jump attacks. We're going to do charge attacks. We're going to get in as much posture damage as we possibly can. And when we have the opportunity, we're going to use that grapple and follow-up because that does a lot of damage too. By the way, this is the first phase of a two-phase boss fight. If you haven't been to the final boss yet, he has two phases. You don't want to take too much damage in phase one. I get hit here a decent amount, probably more than I should have. Typically, you're going to want to avoid being hit in this phase. I know that's a difficult thing because some people are going to be like, well, that's easier said than done. Well, but at the same time, like, he really isn't that difficult in this phase. I was just playing it a little bit too aggressively. If you can try to not use too many flasks or only one or two tops, that would be great because phase 2 of this fight is absolutely insane. And we're going to be jumping into phase 2 now, going over Wylder a little bit more and some tips for the final boss, of course. If you have the items, help your allies, make sure you use that before you go into the second phase of the fight. You can give them additional defense, give them boost for exalted flesh, etc. We're going to use the holy damage grease again too because he's weak to holy damage. Go up to him, and our main focus again is going to be posture damage, charge attacks, jump attacks, etc. Same style of play, and when we get the chance, we can grapple and do the fire attack too. And of course, there's our ultimate charge. Does a lot of posture damage. You see it knocks him back there. He's going to get a break not too far from now either, because even the toughest bosses in this game, when you use the ultimates, it does a ton of posture damage to him. Ironeye's does, and of course Wylder's does as well. It's truly incredible the amount of poise damage that Wylder's ultimate does. I do end up going down twice in this fight, and it's mainly because this was actually the only third time that I fought the final boss. Only the third try I was able to get him, so I didn't really know a lot of his moveset yet. A lot of this stuff for me is memorization in terms of movesets rather than reaction timing. Some people play off reaction timing, they're amazing at these types of games, and then others have to memorize movesets to get better. Typically I have to memorize movesets, and honestly, I hadn't even seen everything yet, so for me it was a little bit difficult, so I did get hit sometimes when I shouldn't get hit, and I figured because he looks like a boss that's not going to have a ton of poise, because of the way his design is and everything. So I was just going to keep the pressure up on him as much as I can. Now, the sky opening part I saw before, this is really difficult to avoid, though. Had a lot of time timing that. Unfortunately, it is very hard to dodge that move. He'll open the sky and bring it down on you. It's absolutely insane. There's really no way I've heard to knock him out of that. You're kind of just stuck with the animation and him dropping down. I've seen people, Ironeye, etc., shooting at him up there, and he doesn't seem to come down, maybe with an ultimate, but I doubt it. But back to this, we're going to continue with the jump attacks, the grapple, additional follow-up when we can. Right there, we're able to hit him. Our allies here, we're using Rot. That's big. Rot is going to be huge for him. Huge tip would be to use Rot against him. All three teams, by the way, at least one of them ran Rot against the final boss. He's immune to most status effects, but he is not immune to Rot, so make sure one member of your team has Rot. I did not get a lot of great passives on this run, unfortunately, for my charged or jump attacks, so that was one downside to this whole video and clip. But still, I was able to get in a good amount of poise damage, and that was the whole concept for me. As much poise damage as I possibly can do, because even if you get just 2 breaks during the entire fight, it gives everybody else an opportunity to heal, and even if you don't have to take the critical break, you can go get up your allies as well if he takes some additional poise damage and falls down. If you see this, I'm getting hit a lot, but I'm taking aggro away from the boss a lot. That was kind of the concept here. I wanted to take a decent amount of aggro from him and even take hits. So throughout this entire run, I built up on physical damage negation, elemental damage negation, etc., so that I could tank some hits. Even though I did end up going down twice in this fight, ultimately for me, it was kind of worth it because I was able to tank some of his hits and take some aggro. That was a big thing for me. I'm not sure why Ironeye here just didn't do his regular arrows. Might have been quicker. But yeah, still works in the end. I kind of had a feeling once I got up here that we had the final boss. I was starting to get confident. Not overly confident, but this team was quite good, so shout out to them. They've got some interesting names, but these were randoms. Very, very good team here, though. They're very good with both characters. And, of course, I continue to try to bring up the pressure on him, take some damage, get in some dodges and whatnot. Unfortunately, there was a miss there because he tends to move from player to player very good. They did very good job with his design in terms of switching from player to player, so it's a little bit hard at times. I recommend, if you're a little bit more skilled than me, to use the grapple a lot more often to try to keep up with him and get that aggro back on you. Probably something I would have done had I had more experience with the final boss. But ultimately, it was really fun running Wylder against the final boss, using the grapple, using the after attack, building around charge attacks, jump attacks, etc. And of course, running Wylder's Greatsword plus 2. This was really fun making this video. I've been really enjoying making these character guides. If I could improve upon these in any way, be sure to comment below. Constructive criticism is welcome. And of course, thanks for watching. I really appreciate everybody that's tuning into these. I'm going to be doing 2 guides for each character. One kind of that goes over the basics and everything and how I like to build them to start. And then later on, with the more hours I get into each character, I'm going to do an advanced guide for each one like I did for Ironeye as well. And of course, those are going to go more for damage and a little bit more advanced builds in that way. So if you want to see that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I will catch everybody in the next character build.